So we are beginning with India-Japan relations today. Again, this is very important for the UPSC mains examination. Also can be asked, a lot of other projects can be asked with respect to India and Japan. So the first thing is, how did we actually begin with the India-Japan relations? Any topic of IR that we do, we always have to begin with the history of that topic. So the first thing is the friendship. The friendship between these two nations, it has a long history rooted in spiritual affinity. We have been related to them spiritually. We have had built our strong relations. We have cultural and civilizational ties with Japan. And India's earliest documented direct contact with Japan was with the Todaiji temple in Nara. The Todaiji temple, where the consecration or eye-opening of towering statue of Lord Buddha, it was performed by an Indian monk, Bodhisena, in 752 AD. So this goes back to 752 AD. This relationship of India and Japan go back to 752 AD. Now, in the contemporary times, in the present times, if I talk about among the prominent Indians who are associated with Japan, they were Swami Vivekananda, the famous people that we know, like Swami Vivekananda, then Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, J.R.D. Tata, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Judge Radha Binod Pal, etc. So many people have been associated when I talk about the India-Japan relations. The Japan-India Association, there was an association of India and Japan. India-Japan Association. This association was set up in 1903, and it is the oldest international friendship body in Japan. This is the oldest international friendship that it has maintained with any country in Japan. Now, Japan's victory in its war against Russia. So Japan had won against Russia in 1905 when India was fighting its independence movement, the Swadeshi movement. It served as an inspiration to many Asians, including India. India has also learned a lot of lessons from how Japan had won against Russia. So India also learned a lot of lessons to fight a war. And post, the two countries have never had any kind of adversities. They have bilateral ties. They have been singularly free of any kind of dispute, ideologically, culturally, or territorially. So we have no such kind of disputes like we have with China or we have with other kind of countries. But what happened exactly after the Second World War? The post-Second World War, India did not attend the San Francisco conference. There was a conference in San Francisco. India did not attend it, but decided to conclude a separate peace treaty with Japan. India said, we will have a treaty. Like I told in previous class also, we had treaties with different countries. So India signed a peace treaty with Japan in the year 1952, after its sovereignty was fully restored. The sole dissenting voice of Judge Radha Binod Pal at the War Crime Tribunal, they struck a deep chord among Japanese public that continues to reverberate to this day. I mean, we have the memory of standing for them. We have the memory of them standing for us. So this is the kind of relationship that we build. Today, India is the largest democracy in Asia and Japan the most prosperous. This shows the kind of ties we have built. And of course, we are not leading, example of competition, but we are leading example of prosperity. We are moving towards prosperity. India is looking forward to become, one of the largest manufacturer country in the world by the Make in India initiative, the Skill India, and so many initiatives that India has taken. And Japan definitely is one of the most prosperous countries. So in the first decade, after we built diplomatic ties, with them, a lot of high-level exchanges have taken place. Like Japanese Prime Minister at that time, Nobusuke Kishi's, his visit took place in 1957. And Prime Minister Nehru returned visit to Tokyo at the same year. And you know what Nehru took? He took 2 elephants along with him. And then President Rajendra Prasad 1958. These are different examples. These are different set of examples that we have towards Japan, you know, how we have tried to build our relationship with them over a period of time. And that is why it's important that we understand we have gone through a phase which is called as transformational development. This entire phase is called as a phase of transformational development in the economic history of India and Japan. And if I talk about the economic history of India, Suzuki Motor corporations, path-breaking investment, they invested in India in 1980s. And this revolutionized which sector? Automobile. The entire automobile sector got revolutionized after this huge investment that they did here. It brought an advanced technology and management ethics to India. People started understanding the importance of moving towards the, this automatic, this automobile section. And we never thought about it unless we had actually seen this kind of change happening. A test of the reliability of Japan as a friend. Now, obviously, you need to check now if a country is your friend or not in real sense. So we had actually tested them in difficult situations. A test of Japan being a true friend was witnessed in the year 1991. When Japan was among it was among the few countries which unconditionally bailed India out of the balance of payment crisis. India was going through a BOP crisis. In India, we had BOP crisis. So Japan had helped us to come out of this BOP crisis. If it would have never helped us, definitely we would have faced more kind of problems. So this shows the reliability, this shows the trust factor that we could have towards a country like Japan. And here we exactly understand that how we have built our relationships with Japan in the past. But obviously, as the century changes, the relationship also changes. If I talk about the present relationship, the present situation, if I talk about how India and Japan are looking forward to their present ties, it's important that we understand that now both the countries are looking forward to building their relations on the present dynamics, the situations that are taking place. For example, the beginning of the 21st century, you can call this era of new relationships. The beginning of the 21st century witnessed a transformation. We saw the change, of bilateral ties between the two countries. How our ties with them had changed now. During Prime Minister Modi's path-breaking visit to India in 2000, when their Prime Minister visited India, Japan-India Global Partnership in 21st century was launched. Global partnership. Now, global partnership means we are not only bilaterally together, but we are also together on multilateral paths. The joint statement signed by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Shinzo Abe in 2006 factored in the new challenges and relationship was upgraded. Now we are not only global partnership, but we are also strategic partners. After the 2006 meeting, with the provision of annual prime ministerial summits. Annual. But again, does it benefit us economically? I mean, fine, we have global partnership, we have strategic partners, but how does it benefit a country economically? If economic development is not there, then why will a country choose a neighbor like Japan? Like, why will we go back to them again and again? So for this, what happened? There was a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, CEPA, between India and Japan. This was concluded in the year 2011. In 2011, it got concluded, and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe paid an official visit to India. He came to India on the 8th annual summit with Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. It happened in January 2014 and was the chief guest at the Republic Day parade in New Delhi. So in 2014, this happened. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when the new government came, he visited Japan from 30th August to September 3rd, 2014. For the 9th annual summit meeting with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And during the visit, what did the Prime Minister do? The two sides upgraded the relation to a special strategic. They said, we are not just strategic. No, he said, we are special, strategic, and we have a global partnership. So it is special. It is not ordinary. This is what was said in the meeting. Both the sides agreed to establish India-Japan Investment Promotion Partnership. And PM Abe pledged to realize public and private investment worth, you can say 3.5 trillion JPY and doubling of the number of Japanese companies in India over the next 5 years. So this was agreed. The number of Japanese, you can say, companies needs to be increased in India. More companies needs to come and invest in India. And Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited India in September 2017. So on, meetings, bilateral summits, multilateral summits have kept the relationship intact of India and Japan so far. So this is the present record that is there. And we are definitely looking forward to different aspects now. So the first aspect that I'm going to be discussing with the relationship of India and Japan is the economic aspect now. So let us very, very quickly discuss the economy here. What about economy? How their economy is being stabilized? Economic relation between India and Japan have vast potential. बहुत पोटेंशियल है अगर हम देखें इकोनॉमिक अपॉर्चुनिटीज दोनों कंट्रीज के बीच में ग्रोथ का पोटेंशियल है कॉम्प्लीमेंटेरियंस एग्जिस्ट करते हैं दोनों एशियन इकोनॉमीज के अंदर तो डेफिनेटली ये फायदेमंद तो है क्योंकि जहां पोटेंशियल होगा वहां पे टैप इन करने की पॉसिबिलिटी और प्रॉफिट होने का भी मार्जिन ज्यादा रहता है जापान का जो इंटरेस्ट है इंडिया के टुवर्ड्स वो इंक्रीज होता जा रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ अ लॉट ऑफ रीजंस जैसे इंडिया का लार्ज एंड ग्रोइंग मार्केट है इंडिया हैज a large market. India has large market, large population, large number of people, and India के पास resources है, especially human resource. Like we have human resource. हमारे यहाँ पे जितने भी लोग हैं, वो काम करने के लिए ready है. We provide the largest labor, and so many people move abroad. Like in 2020, around 96,000 people had moved, so different countries. So definitely, this is the data that we have. एंड इंडिया जापान ने कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक जो पार्टनरशिप एग्रीमेंट किया है विच केम इनटू फोर्स इन 2011 ये सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव एग्रीमेंट है जो आज तक इंडिया ने किसी कंट्री के साथ किया सो दिस इज वन ऑफ द मेजर पॉसिबिलिटीज ऑन इकोनॉमिक ग्राउंड्स एट द सेम टाइम जो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स है व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट आईपीआर कस्टम प्रोसीजर्स या अदर ट्रेड रिलेटेड इश्यूज है वो भी काफी सॉर्टेड है बिकॉज ये जो कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक पार्टनरशिप एग्रीमेंट है ये कवर करता है ना ही सिर्फ ट्रेड गुड्स के अंदर नॉट ओनली ट्रेड इन गुड्स ये सिर्फ गुड्स को कवर नहीं करता बट ये सर्विसेज को भी कवर करता है मूवमेंट ऑफ नेचुरल पर्संस को भी कवर करता है ये इन्वेस्टमेंट को भी कवर करता है इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट को भी कस्टम प्रोसीजर्स को तो ये काफी फ्रेंडली यू कैन से एक intellectual you can say this is a very very friendly agreement that has been signed and hence जो ये SEPA है it emphasizes abolition of tariff कम से कम कितना tariff abolish करना 94% of items traded between India and Japan over a period of 10 years तो ये चीज बताता है कि किस तरह से हम अपने ट्रेड टाइज बढ़ा सकते हैं जैसे एक एग्जांपल है अगर 2015-16 में देखें तो इंडिया जापान का जो ट्रेड था वो 14.51 बिलियन यूएस डॉलर्स तक पहुंच गया था and it showed a decrease of 6.47% over what was in 2014-15 but जब हम टोटल बायलेटरल ट्रेड की बात करें तो वो बहुत ज्यादा था like 15.51 बिलियन डॉलर्स यूएस डॉलर्स और यही बढ़ता गया। सो डेफिनेटली अगर हम एक्सपोर्ट्स की बात करें, अगर हम बात करें ट्रेड वाइज, तो यस इट इज अ प्रेफरेबल कंट्री बिकॉज इनके साथ कॉम्प्लिकेशंस कम है, border issues nahi hai. Obviously, yeah, definitely there are certain kind of issues that we have with all kinds of countries, but we look at it as more of a cooperative country. We look at it as more of a possibility of growing. So it makes all the kind of sense, you know, in order to invest, in order to make business, in order to grow relations, etc. अब हम बात करते हैं सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट की आफ्टर इकोनॉमिक एस्पेक्ट. द नेक्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट हियर इज if I have to discuss the bilateral assistance and investment. देखो, जापान has been extending bilateral लोन बायलेटरल लोन के तौर पे या ग्रांट असिस्टेंस आप बोल सकते हो. जब इंडिया को चाहिए ग्रांट तो उसके लिए आगे खड़ा होता है, मतलब दे आर स्टैंडिंग देयर. और 1958 से वो हेल्प कर रहा है एंड इट इज द लार्जेस्ट बायलेटरल डोनर फॉर इंडिया. अब इंडिया लोगों को देता है लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट, बट हम जापान से काफी असिस्टेंस लेते हैं. तो अगर हम जापानीज ऑफिशियल डेवलपमेंट असिस्टेंस की बात करें, वो इंडिया को इस हद तक सपोर्ट करता है कि हमारी जो इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट है, पर्टिकुलरली प्रायोरिटी एरियाज में, जैसे कि हम लोगों ने प्रोग्रेस किया है पावर में, या अगर हम बात करते हैं ट्रांसपोर्टेशन सेक्टर के अंदर, या अगर हम बात करते हैं इन्वायरमेंटल प्रोजेक्ट्स के ऊपर, या इफ आई टॉक अबाउट प्रोजेक्ट्स रिलेटेड टू बेसिक ह्यूमन नीड्स, हमने काफी चीजें, काफी प्रोडक्ट्स, काफी ज्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट वी हैव टेकन फ्रॉम देम. इनफैक्ट हमारे जो मल्टी मेगा प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, मल्टी मेगा प्रोजेक्ट्स में बात कर रही हूँ यहाँ पे, जो इंडिया को अगली डिकेड तक ट्रांसफॉर्म करने वाले हैं, द हाईएस्ट बिल्डिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स, द हाईएस्ट you can say roadways projects and different kind of projects, they have made a phenomenal mark, you know, on India, phenomenally. और यहाँ पे मैं बात करना चाहूंगी अहमदाबाद मुंबई हाई स्पीड रेलवे. जैसे मैं यहाँ एग्जांपल्स देना चाहती हूँ आपको कि किस तरह के प्रोजेक्ट्स हम लीड कर रहे हैं. जैसे हम लीड कर रहे हैं, पहला है अहमदाबाद मुंबई हाई स्पीड रेल, ये एक एग्जाम्पल है. सिमिलरली दिल्ली मुंबई का अगर हम देखें, इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर विद 12 न्यू इंडस्ट्रियल टाउनशिप्स, या चेन्नई बेंगलुरु का इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर, या दिल्ली मेट्रो प्रोजेक्ट. दिल्ली मेट्रो प्रोजेक्ट तो किस हद तक का सक्सेस है, आई कैन टेल यू. It's my personal experience. I mean, this is one of the best projects that has been inculcated in India, the best experience of Delhi Metro. If ever you go to Delhi, you can actually see the Delhi Metro project has also been realized with Japanese assistance. And it is one of the most successful models. In fact, most of the parts of our country need metros and public transport like this. अगर हम अभी पीछे ही बात करें तो we have taken so much of assistance, financial assistance from them in the year 2016-17 also. और जापान की क्यूमुलेटिव इन्वेस्टमेंट इंडिया में सिंस अप्रैल 2000 टू सितंबर 2016 तक अगर हम बात करें तो इट हैज बीन 23.76 US dollars. Just imagine the kind of amount, billion US dollars. This is the assistance we took from the year 2000 till 2016, which is 8%. अगर इंडिया की टोटल में FDI की बात करूं, फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट की, तो उसका 8% तो हमने सिर्फ जापान से लिया. और जापानीज FDI इनटू इंडिया हैज मेनली बीन इन डिफरेंट सेक्टर्स. जैसे कहाँ दिया इन्होंने FDI, इन्होंने दिया ऑटोमोबाइल सेक्टर के अंदर, ये इंपॉर्टेंट सेक्टर था इनके लिए. या आप बोल सकते हो इलेक्ट्रिकल इक्विपमेंट का सेक्टर हो गया, या आप बोल सकते हो जैसे टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस है, टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस का सेक्टर हो गया, केमिकल हो गया, फार्मास्यूटिकल्स. ये अलग अलग सेक्टर थे जिसके अंदर वी हैव टेकन असिस्टेंस फ्रॉम देम. तो क्यों नहीं, डेफिनेटली हम इतना ज्यादा फायदा हुआ ही है. और जापान के जो FDI है, दे हैव ट्रिपल्ड इन द लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स. 2014 से लेकर अगर हम देखें तो इसका तो अमाउंट बढ़ता ही गया है. एंड दिस हैज डेफिनेटली हेल्प्ड इंडिया टू कम आउट ऑफ सो मच ऑफ लैक ऑफ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फैसिलिटीज, मॉडर्न प्रोजेक्ट्स, यू कैन से रेलवे लाइंस एक्सेट्रा. तो बहुत ज्यादा बेनिफिशियल रहा है हमारे लिए, एंड दैट इज एब्सोल्युटली वेरी मच ट्रू. और यहाँ पे हम ऑब्वियसली खत्म नहीं करते हैं, असिस्टेंस जो है वो चलती रहती है, प्रोजेक्ट्स जो है वो चलते रहते हैं. तो अगला जो मेजर प्रोजेक्ट है जिसके ऊपर हम बात करेंगे, वो प्रोजेक्ट रहा है इंडिया का विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द टेक्नोलॉजिकल कोऑपरेशन. Now we are moving towards a world of high technology. मतलब everybody is moving into this tech world. तो बायलेटरल अगर साइंस एंड टेक की हम बात करें, अब लेट मी टेल यू, योजना मैगजीन जो है अक्टूबर 2021 की, वो भी एड्रेस कर रही है साइंस एंड टेक के ऊपर, पूरी योजना लिखी गई है. सो यू कैन रीड दैट एज वेल इफ यू want to look for what is happening in science and tech. And pre and mains में questions are increasing on science and tech. सब तरह के एग्जाम, स्टेट एग्जाम्स, यूपीएससी एंड एग्जाम. तो बायलेटरल अगर मैं साइंस एंड टेक कोऑपरेशन की बात करूं तो इन दोनों के अंदर, दोनों कंट्रीज में बायलेटरल एक एग्रीमेंट हुआ था साइन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू साइंस एंड टेक. ये एग्रीमेंट 1985 का साइन हुआ हुआ, सोचो, इन द ईयर 1985. और यहाँ पे ये बात करता है कि जो बायलेटरल साइंस एंड टेक कोऑपरेशन है, इंडिया जापान साइंस काउंसिल इस्टेब्लिश की गई इसके लेकर. इंडिया जापान साइंस काउंसिल, ये काउंसिल बनी थी 1993 में. अब इस काउंसिल का काम क्या है कि इन दोनों के जो साइंटिफिक प्रोजेक्ट्स है साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के रिगार्डिंग, उन पे ध्यान रखना. 2006 में क्या हुआ, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी ने इनिशिएट किया वैल्यू बेस्ड पार्टनरशिप वर्किंग ऑन द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ रेसिप्रोसिटी एंड को फंडिंग. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अगर आप किसी कंट्री की हेल्प कर रहे हो तो वो भी आपकी हेल्प करे. और दूसरा था को फंडिंग. ये इंपॉर्टेंट था कि रेसिप्रोसिटी होना चाहिए, को फंडिंग होना चाहिए with Japan Society for Promotion of Science and Japan Science and Technology Agency through MEXT. इन्होंने सोचा कि इसको हम कैसे करेंगे, तो एक बनाया गया MEXT. MEXT का मैं फुल फॉर्म बता रही हूँ, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन, कल्चर, स्पोर्ट्स, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी. देखो एक मिनिस्ट्री का काम नहीं है, वी रिक्वायर अ हैंडफुल ऑफ मिनिस्ट्रीज टू हेल्प. तो चाहे यहाँ पे हम बात करें मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एजुकेशन है, कल्चर है, स्पोर्ट्स है, साइंस है एंड टेक्नोलॉजी. और 2015 से सिंस 2015 250 students have visited Japan under annual Japan Asia Youth Exchange Program in Science. कितने सारे बच्चे विजिट कर चुके हैं इस प्रोग्राम के अंदर. And this is also known as Sakura Exchange Program. इसको बहुत पॉपुलरली Sakura Exchange Program भी बोलते हैं. This was implemented by the Department of Science and Technology and Japan's Department of Science and Technology. इंडिया से और वहां से इन्होंने दोनों ने इसको एग्री करके एस्टैब्लिश किया. 2017 की अगर मैं आपको बात बताऊं तो ड्यूरिंग सितंबर 2017 जो शिंजो आबे की विजिट थी टू इंडिया, इट मार्क द कमेंसमेंट ऑफ मुंबई अहमदाबाद हाई स्पीड रेल प्रोजेक्ट. जो बुलेट ट्रेन का आपने बहुत पॉपुलरली कॉन्सेप्ट सुना होगा न्यूज में, द बुलेट ट्रेन विद फाइनेंशियल एंड टेक्नोलॉजिकल सपोर्ट ऑफ जापान. So imagine all the upgradation, all the new kind of technology, all the new kind of initiatives that are taking place in the technical field. They are definitely backing up by the bilateral relations, and they are being strengthened as well. So why not? Why not to build relations with such a country which is expanding, which is helping us, and at the same time helping our country also grow. And then we come to the most important discussion now of India and Japan ties, which is the geostrategic dimension. Okay, so अगर हम बात करते हैं स्ट्रैटेजिक लॉजिक की, अंडरपाइनिंग द कोऑपरेशन बिटवीन इंडिया एंड जापान, तो पहला फैक्टर यहाँ पे चाइना आता है. चाइना देखो हर जगह आता है. चाइना जो रिसेंट एक जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट हुआ था 2017 में हुआ था, इट कॉल्ड फॉर अ फ्री ओपन प्रॉस्परस इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन. इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन फ्री होना चाहिए, ओपन होना चाहिए, प्रॉस्परस होना चाहिए, वेयर सोवरेनिटी इंटरनेशनल लॉ आर रिस्पेक्टेड. जितने भी इंटरनेशनल लॉज है ऑफ द सी, एवरीथिंग इज रिस्पेक्टेड एंड डिफरेंसेस आर रिजॉल्व थ्रू डायलॉग. अगर लड़ाई झगड़ा है तो उसे डायलॉग से ठीक करा जाए, ये बात की गई थी. बट एट द सेम टाइम अगर हम यहाँ पे देखें, all the countries, चाहे बड़ी है चाहे छोटी है, they have the freedom of different things. For example, they have the freedom of navigation. हर country के पास navigation का एक right होता है. They have the right to navigation. They have the right to overflight, sustainable development. एंड फ्री फेयर ट्रेड, फ्री ट्रेड हो गया, फेयर होना चाहिए एंड ओपन। ये तो हर कोई चाहता है कि वो अपने नेबर्स के साथ फ्री फेयर ओपन ट्रेड कर सके, इन्वेस्टमेंट कर सके। दिस इज एन ऑब्वियस रेफरेंस टू चाइनीज असर्शन इन द रीसेंट टाइम्स। चाइना का जो असर्शन है इंडियन ओशन रीजन में एंड इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन में, इट इज एक्चुअली बिकमिंग अ क्योर्स फॉर मेनी कंट्रीज। जो जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट है इंडिया जापान का, वो इसी चीज पे फोकस करता है कि जो चाइना का बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव है, हाउ इट एज बिकमिंग अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर मेनी बिग एंड स्मॉल कंट्रीज। तो ये एक पहला इशू है जिसके बारे में हम कॉमनली एग्री करते हैं। जो जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट है ये मच मोर डायरेक्ट है इन कंडेमिंग नॉर्थ कोरिया एंड पाकिस्तान ऑल्सो। तो नॉर्थ कोरिया और पाकिस्तान को कंडेम करने में भी वी हैव अ कॉमनैलिटी ऑफ थिंकिंग ओवर हियर। बिकॉज जो स्टेटमेंट है ये बोलता है कि चाइना जो है वो क्रिएट कर रहा है इंटरनेशनल प्रॉब्लम दैट नॉर्थ कोरिया एंड पाकिस्तान आर टुडे। In a way, India and Japan show themselves to be an open and democratic bulwark against the conduct of the Rawalpindi, Beijing, Pyongyang axis। ये जो एक्सिस बनाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं नॉर्थ कोरिया, पाकिस्तान एंड चाइना, इसके अगेंस्ट जापान और इंडिया बोलते हैं कि हम तो स्ट्रांगली खड़े हैं। बट एट द सेम टाइम जापान हैज बीन अनश्योर ऑफ यूएस कमिटमेंट। जापान को यूएस पे ज्यादा विश्वास नहीं है, which allies ever since Donald Trump started his presidential campaign and after he became the president, so they didn't have so much of trust on him। और जो intercontinental ballistic missile capability है नॉर्थ कोरिया की, it has aggravated Tokyo's worries about decoupling of US-Japan alliance, कि किस तरह से इनके यूएस के साथ रिलेशन खराब हो सकते हैं। एट द सेम टाइम इंडिया और जो जापान है, दे एक्ट ईस्ट फोरम, एक्ट ईस्ट forum was launched in 2017 to build synergy between India's Act East and Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific policy। इंडिया अपने ईस्टर्न नेबर्स के ऊपर बहुत ध्यान दे रहा है, तो इंडिया का एक्ट ईस्ट पॉलिसी और जापान का फ्री एंड ओपन इंडो पैसिफिक पॉलिसीज will definitely be effective and helpful to build better geostrategic dimension and relation between India and Japan। बट हमारा क्या डिस्प्यूट है चाइना के साथ एंड कोरिया के साथ, इसको मैं थोड़ा सा एक्सपैंड करूंगी, और हाउ वी हैव एक्सपैंडिंग स्कोप एंड एड्रेसेस टू इश्यूज दैट वी नीड टू एड्रेस। सो विद दिस वी मूव टू द सब पार्ट ऑफ द डिबेट। जो भी हमने डिस्कस किया उसका हम एक सब पार्ट बनाते हैं एंड वी विल डिस्कस दिस नाउ। तो पहला जो इंपॉर्टेंट डिस्कशन है हमारा, इट विल रिवॉल्व अराउंड आइलैंड डिस्प्यूट। क्या है हमारा बेसिकली, व्हाट इज द आइलैंड डिस्प्यूट विद चाइना। All right. This island dispute, for this we need to understand कि जो ties है between Japan and China, they have been strained by territorial row over a group of islands। There are certain islands जिसके ऊपर they have a dispute। These islands are known as the Senkaku Islands in Japan। इन islands को बोलते हैं Senkaku Islands in Japan। And Diaoyu Islands in China। At the heart of the dispute are 8 uninhabited islands। अब कुछ इन uninhabited islands भी है जहां पर कोई रहता ही नहीं है, ठीक है। And rocks in the East China Sea। They have a total area, इनका जो एरिया है वो है 7 square kilometer and lie northeast of Taiwan, east of the Chinese mainland and southwest of Japan। जापान के साउथ वेस्ट रीजन के अंदर ये है, सदर्न मोस्ट परफेक्चर में ओकिनावा। तो ये जो आइलैंड्स है दे आर कंट्रोल्ड बाय जापान। इन आइलैंड्स को जापान कंप्लीटली कंट्रोल करता है। फिर अगर हम बात करें, ये इसलिए इंपॉर्टेंट है बिकॉज दे आर क्लोज टू इंपॉर्टेंट शिपिंग लेन्स। अब आइलैंड्स की इंपॉर्टेंस कहाँ आती है, obviously they are important because they are close to the shipping lanes के close है, fishing ground, इतना सारा economic benefit होता है with the help of fishing, and lie near potential oil and gas reserves. इसलिए इनकी importance बहुत ज्यादा है. And at the same time, they are also in a strategically significant position. You know, जैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं यूएस के साथ, चाइना के साथ कंपटीशन इज इंक्रीजिंग फॉर मिलिट्री प्राइमेसी इन एशिया पैसिफिक रीजन, तो ये काफी स्ट्रैटेजिक लोकेशन पे, इसलिए आइलैंड्स इंपॉर्टेंट है. आई जस्ट ड्रॉ अ मैप टू शो यू विच आइलैंड्स आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट आफ्टर 2 minutes. तो 2013 की बात है. इन 2013 चाइना ने डिक्लेयर किया अ फॉर्मल एयर डिफेंस identification zone covering airspace over the islands and overlapping with airspace claimed by Japan. ये जो एयर डिफेंस आइडेंटिफिकेशन जोन है, इट रिक्वायर्ड एयरलाइंस फ्लाइंग ओवर द वाटर्स टू फर्स्ट नोटिफाई चाइना. अगर चाइना के उस एरिया के ऊपर से कोई भी फ्लाइट निकलती है तो उन्हें पहले चाइना को इन्फॉर्म करना पड़ेगा. दिस वाज द एयर डिफेंस आइडेंटिफिकेशन जोन. The two countries are often at loggerheads with violation of each other's line and scrambling of fighter jets. तो इसलिए दोनों के अंदर क्या रहता है, हमेशा इनके अंदर they are always in a state of fight, they're always in a state of dispute with each other on the same grounds. तो जापान चाइना आइलैंड डिस्प्यूट क्या है, what is the diagram regarding it? I'm just going to draw the map, so look at it very carefully now. These maps can be extremely helpful when it comes to your mains examination. You should try drawing maps instead of mentioning things. So you can draw rough maps also. I'm drawing one for you. I'm going to quickly explain you what I have drawn over here. Okay. So if you can see here, this is Beijing. This is the China region, right? Shanghai, Hong Kong. This is the entire China region. This is upward Russia. Here is North Korea. This is South Korea, and this is Seoul over here. And then this is the Japanese area. I haven't marked it, so I'll just mark it. This is Japan. This area. This is Japan, and here is the capital Tokyo. Tokyo. Okay. This is the East China Sea, this region. These are the islands I was talking about, the Senkaku Diaoyu Islands. These are the islands that I was discussing when I was talking. These islands, Diaoyu Islands. This is Taiwan, this is Philippines, and this is the Nile dash line which separates them basically. And this is the South China Sea, this area. So I'll mark the South China Sea as well. The South China Sea, and this is the Pacific Ocean, this side. So basically, China and Japan have strained by a territorial row over a group of islands, these islands. They're having a dispute over the Senkaku Diaoyu Islands. You know, this is the area. And this line that I have drawn over here, this one, this area that I've drawn from here, this green outline that I have given outside Japan. Why this line is there? Because this line represents the air defense identification zone. Ye hai air defense identification zone. Just to make it little more this thing. I'll just this one again. This line, this area is the air defense identification zone. The new Chinese, existing Japanese. So this is this entire map that I have drawn for you. This is basically the Chinese Ministry of National Defense image that has been given. So this is the entire figure that is there. And what is the dispute is the Senkaku dialogue. If you mention this, you will be able to actually explain the ties of India and Japan and the conflict of Japan-China very clearly, because indirectly, if Japan is in conflict with China and India is in conflict with, China, then again, like India is in conflict with Pakistan, so China and Pakistan have become friends. So that is again the same logic. Japan and India will support each other because they have a common enemy, that is China. Should I rub this?
Yes, ma'am.
And they have last issues to address now. Let's discuss the issues to address. Definitely, when we talk about two countries, kuch na kuch issue to they will always have with each other. There's no point that they will not have issues. So they have issues to address. There are so many issues to be addressed. For example, the burgeoning relationship needs to address a few issues to develop optimally, like bilateral trade. Now it has remained, around the range of $15 billion annually in the last so many years, and they do not reflect the economic ties between the third and the fourth largest or purchasing power parity terms may economies in the world. It should be noted down that China is Japan's biggest trading partner. The two have a bilateral trade of $300 billion. So we definitely need to work on strengthening our bilateral trades with each other. Then we have long pending defense deals, especially the sale of US-2 amphibious aircraft to India. They, how such kind of delays which have taken place need to be addressed. The project, the bullet train project, etc. Like how all of these needs to be reset. How automobile sector has been affected in the pandemic, and how that also needs to be sorted, needs to be talked about. And the UNSC reforms, United Nations Security Council reforms, cooperation of two countries as part of G4 needs further momentum. They need to work the group of 4 countries, the G4, they need momentum. They need to increase their ties, else their issues will not be resolved. I mean, we can actually improve our relations really, really well with them. So, however, these areas of slow growth cannot take away the tremendous distance that has been covered elsewhere. We've actually strengthened our ties very, very well with Japan, and we have the potential to do that further as well. So, when we talk about Indo-Pacific countries, India-Japan relations will remain important. The next section that I will be covering forward will be India and South Korea. A section that I will be covering now, and then we'll go to Australia and slowly to the island countries, etc. This is also a very important section because we are definitely looking forward to building our ties and strengthening our position in the Indo-Pacific region. So that is why understanding this dynamic is extremely important when we talk about the entire India and its neighborhood policy. So this makes the entire debate here. You can also pen down a question with respect to India and Japan. I'm just going to give you a short question that you can actually try practicing, and then you can submit it also. I'll give you a link to actually submit your PDF, or you can WhatsApp me actually your answer directly in the PDF format. So I will be able to check the answer. So you can WhatsApp me the answer. Wait, I'm just giving you a question. Now, India and Japan have built strategic relations in different areas, yet the new digital ecosystem requires India and Japan to sign a cybersecurity deal comment with respect to their respective vision towards the Indo-Pacific region. In terms of the robust digital ecosystem. So you can actually write down the answers, scan it, and send me through a PDF or convert it into a PDF and send it to me directly on WhatsApp. This will be evaluated and sent back to you. And you can take the benefit of answer writing also. So this can be done.